I think we've crossed some sort of line in the sand, and I guess we've been crossing it like repeatedly for a number of years and especially months now and even weeks. And there's finally like this great leap forward with a certain ideology. And I think that this is really summed up in this new Reddit rules that Reddit kind of published to be enforced site-wide. Now, Reddit has had a history of dicey censorship. They've been trying to roll back on that whole free speech thing that they were founded on and kind of roll forward with a land free of hate. And there's different ways that they've been implementing this that are pretty freaking sketchy, if you ask me and ask other people. For instance, they have that up and down dislike button like you can find under the video that you're watching now. And they've actually banned people for upvoting wrongthink or wrong opinion. But this new rule rather takes the cake, and it shows us that we are now in a new era. Promoting hate based on identity or vulnerability. Rule 1, remember the human. Reddit is a place for creating community and belonging, not for attacking marginalized or vulnerable groups of people. Remember the human, but they're only going to really talk about the group of humans. And what they're basically going to be rolling out is a vulnerability status based on group. To continue, everyone has a right to use Reddit free of harassment, bullying, and threats of violence. Communities and people that incite violence or that promote hate based on identity or vulnerability will be banned. Now, there are certainly necessary tools that mods should have, moderators of individual subreddits. So Reddit is like this super forum place where you basically steal content from the internet and everybody chats about it. That's basically what it is. And there's different communities, and there should be tools for communities to keep on top of people who troll other people and who are, inciting violence and doing bad things. For sure. I don't have any problem with that necessarily. I mean, I think that it can be abused. I think there should be accountability for whoever has the ban hammer. But, the internet being the internet, you're going to have to, kind of weed out the conversation so it doesn't get corrupted. But listen to this. Marginalized or vulnerable groups include, but are not limited to, groups based on their actual or perceived race, color, religion, political leaning. Oh, wait, no political leaning here. They must have forgot that one. National origin, ethnicity, immigration status, gender identity, agreement with gender identity ideology. No, I'm sorry, they didn't include that one either. Sexual orientation, pregnancy. Can I ask something? Like, honestly, is there a lot of pregnancy hate going on around there? Like, am I that naive that like they need to call out pregnancy, but not political leanings? I mean, where are my priorities for not knowing that? Or disability, to round up their list of identities. These include victims of a major violent event and their families, which I think is a subtle call out to the way in which Alex Jones allegedly mistreated or treated people in the wake of the Sandy Hook shooting. And that is what got him banned from several different platforms. But that's a good precedent, I guess. I mean, good is relative here. But this is the statement. It completely takes the cake. And it shows us we are completely in another world now. Like, this is a major internet platform. This is like one of the top 10 visited sites in the world, right? And this is what they're going to put out there as the rules of engagement around whatever they mean by hate, as it applies to whatever they mean by a vulnerable or marginalized group of humans. And here it is. While the rule on hate protects such groups, it does not protect all groups or all forms of identity. For example, the rule does not protect groups of people who are in the majority or who promote such attacks of hate. They actually said that. The rule does not protect groups of people who are in the majority. They did not define what they mean by majority. Actually, there's this huge Reddit kind of conversation about that. They just don't explicitly say who this majority is. But if you look at the 2,000 subreddits that they deleted and the ones that they let remain, there's certain classes of people who are considered in the majority, are considered to be worthy of hate or not as in need of vulnerability. So I really do think that we're in a new era now. And people were saying that this is going to happen in the run-up to the 2020 election. And it seems like now is the time for all these companies to throw down these rules, to throw down this gauntlet. But I was totally shocked. I did this episode and then I went on to Twitter while it rendered and I found out that Gender Critical was banned. Now, I had been involved in that subreddit as an ingester of their content, and I eventually backed away from dealing with that particular forum because of the amount of negativity within that group of people. But there was a lot of very salient ideas and necessary conversations that were happening with regards to radical feminism and other forms of feminism meeting against or kind of coming up against the competing rights with trans individuals or the trans ideology. And there's a lot of conversation to be had about that. And that Reddit would target that group of people. It really shows that it's not just like, okay, white men can take their knocks now. Like, no, not just white men can take their knocks, but anybody who's not on board with a certain set of belief and a certain form of ideological behavior towards other human beings or the way that society is set up. And maybe, there's conversations to be had about navigating how society functions. I'm all for that, but shutting down dissent of the way that society is all of a sudden functioning, targeting women who are like, okay, so what? They have some opinions. They can get kind of mean and angry. They have a lot of things to express. And I'm not going to apologize for all the content on Gender Critical. I mean, I had to back away from that community because they get really angry. They get really angry up in there. Well, that's absolutely pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic that Reddit would just like shove them out the door. That's horrible. That's horrendous. I mean, the point of, being a privileged white male is that my privilege basically comes down to the fact that I will never be a vulnerable group. I'm basically assumed to be invulnerable unless I can drum up some sort of marginality with which to protect myself. And I know that there's a lot of people who have a lot of, arguments to be making against radical feminism. And some of the moves that radical feminism has made are definitely missteps. And I think that they should be discussed. And you want to discuss them with radical feminists. You want to get on a level playing field with them and listen to their stories and try to build bridges. And this is not the way to do that. This is going to completely fracture our community and our society. So not only is the dream of a free, open internet over or at risk here, and we've been going this way for a while, but now we've moved into a different area, this deliberate balkanization leading up to the November 3rd election. So they're foisting upon us a very, very difficult choice. These companies that promote, and Reddit promotes wild amounts of hate towards Trump and Trump supporters. And I'm not completely on board with Trump. He does things that I really wish he wouldn't do, but he's done a lot of other things that I don't think are half bad. And I think that he's going to go in a direction that is completely different from the people that the Reddit people and that all these other Silicon Valley companies want to put up in office. Whoever's going to be running the country once Joe Biden, if he gets elected, whoever that person is with this certain identity that we're going to just be foisted upon us because Joe Biden's brain's going to fall out within the first 3 months of his presidency, and then we're going to be stuck with somebody that we did not elect anyways. I guess know who you're electing in that case. They're foisting upon us an impossible situation, and these companies have a lot of funding coming from China too. And what did China do this year? They kind of allowed this virus to sweep across the globe and put everybody in the same economic tenuous situation that they were. And right about when we would have had the conversation about holding them to account, not Chinese people as a race, but China as a country for the way that it handled the virus, all of a sudden The whole world is obsessed with something that has a very strong necessity to talk about, race relations and stuff like that. I really disagree with the way that most people want to go about doing that, or at least the official program of dealing with race. The way that that's going, I have a lot of criticisms for, and if you're a new subscriber, that's why you're subscribed to me. But don't you find it odd that all that racial stuff pops up? And then what do all the companies do with that? They tighten down speech controls. Every major institution stocks up their diversity, equity, and inclusion offices. It just spends a whole bunch of money on these basically thought-suppressing bureaus of control. And then this rollout of a blatantly crazy rule about saying that the majority, whatever that means, like within an office culture, within like 500 years of writing, if you just sample 500 years of English writing, you'll see that white men were there a lot of the time. Well, it's not just white men. It's people that have problems with certain strains of the transgender ideology or the gender ideology. Certain conversations are just across the board, just stamped out. Certain things that are difficult for us to manage, certain conversations that are difficult for us to have are not allowed to be had explicitly because they're in the majority, whatever that means. I mean, good God. Who's more vulnerable than the women on these websites that get battered constantly by really crazy individuals that are acting under the aegis of the transgender ideology? I've tried to do some work platforming rational trans people because there's a lot of rational trans people out there. There are a lot of non-trashy rational trans individuals out there. And they definitely should be listened to. They're very smart people. But then there's this whole other group that's just bashing on women the whole time. So I guess it's okay to bash on women then? I mean, if you look at like all of the pornography subreddits that they kept up on Reddit that they did not ban, that have to do specifically with getting off on violence against women, and you wonder where their priorities are, the only place that I go to Reddit for now, the only place that isn't really corrupted now, except for little tiny subreddits that have a very specific focus about what I need to research at a time. The only subreddit worth going there for is Political Compass memes. That's the only place where I've seen actual conversation across a political divide, and that's going to be corrupted eventually. It's going to all be corrupted eventually. I mean, we need new platforms, so go ahead and get on other platforms, get involved. Don't let this crap stand. This is insane. The majority is exempt from vulnerable status. Well, you notice how they didn't talk about the individual the whole time. Your individual experience doesn't matter. It's your group status. So just align to your tribe. Find your tribe. Well, I want to find a tribe that's made out of many tribes. I believe in that. I hope that all you people who are here with me along this journey are just that kind of people. Can be our own crew. So this is Benjamin Boyce, talking for as long as I'm able before we go underground here. Signing off. Talk to you later.